Hey everyone, welcome back to Coach Doc Ministries. Today's video, we're going to continue our Q&A series talking about the historical accuracy of the Bible. It's going to be a good one. Let's get to it. So I think in order to answer the question, is the Bible historically accurate? I think in order to answer that question, we have to stop and go back and look and see how the ancients recorded history. So it's not just the Bible, it's not just Israel's history. You look at the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Persians. History, the recording of history back in those days wasn't like it is today, where we're very fact-based. September 1st, 1939, the Germans invaded Poland. The Germans had tanks, the Poles had horses. Germans obviously won. So that's a very 21st century or 20th, 21st century way of recording history. It's fact, it's driven chronologically like that. So the ancient Near East was different. They recorded history in a much more bombastic, dare I say, propaganda style of writing. It was not at all like it is today, where it's very fact-driven. You can look at the ancient writings of pretty much anybody in the Near East around the time of Israel, and you're going to have the same, my God delivered me from this, and this happened, and thanks to whatever the God is. You're also going to see the exaggerations that you see in the Bible as far as numbers. So 3 million people left Egypt during the Exodus. I mean, that's incredibly implausible that it was that many. Is the Bible historically accurate? Based on what we just said, if you take the Bible literally, every event happened exactly as it's described, to the minute detail, then no, the Bible is not historically accurate. Now, is there a thread of history that runs through the Bible? Yes, absolutely there is. And that thread becomes a tapestry the further along in the Bible you get. So for example, we know there was a house of David. We have the Tel-Dan Stele. It was a victory stele from the king of the Moabites, who was claiming to have defeated the house of David. Well, you can't have a house of David without first having David. So, was there a King David? Probably. Now, who was King David? Was he all those stories you read about in Samuel and Kings? Probably not. Did his empire stretch from Egypt to the Euphrates? I'm pretty sure the Egyptians and the Assyrians would have a different story to tell you, whether that's accurate or not. So, is the Bible historically accurate? Yes. There is a thread of history that runs through it that becomes a very tattered tapestry the further along you get into the Bible. Is every minute detail in there? No. There's a lot of storytelling in the Bible. And that's how we teach it. To be honest, I don't teach the Bible as a history book because it's not a history book. It's not a science book. The world was not created in 6 days. It was created over billions of years. So this discussion of is the Bible historically accurate is really a futile one. It's really a moot point as long as you don't take the Bible literally. If you take it literally, it's in every word, every sentence is 100% accurate to the nth degree. This is what happened. You're constantly going to be fighting archaeology. You're going to be fighting science. You're going to be constantly wrestling with those bigger issues. And for many of us, taking it literally, you're going to lose. You're going to walk away from the faith because the Bible is not a history book. Okay? Is there history in it? Yes. Is it based on history? Yes. Is it very good at describing what happened in that historical sense? No. It's very bombastic, just like the writings around it. It's very propaganda-like, written by the victor. Is it historically accurate? Bottom line, yes. So let's take an example of the Exodus. We know that there were Canaanites in Egypt as slaves. We know that some of them escaped. And living back in those days, if you escaped one of the most mighty nations in the world, and you made it to the highlands of Israel, where the Israelites were living at the time, would you not claim divine help? Of course you would. Of course everybody would. Back in those days, everyone would. So we also know there are natural events that sound very much like the story of the Exodus. For example, there was a Greek volcano that erupted about the same time as the Exodus is supposedly to have occurred. Archaeologists have found pumice from that volcano in Egypt. Hail coming down from the sky, volcanic rock falling from the sky, right? Same thing. The dust cloud that would have come from that volcano easily would have darkened the sky as far away as Egypt. This is not implausible, and this is not going against anything scientific. In fact, there are a lot of scientists who can map the events of that volcano to several, not all, several of the plagues that hit Egypt. So was it based on a historical event? Was it based on a series of historical events? Did people actually leave Egypt, flee, escape, make it to Israel, and claim that it was God, that it was Yahweh? Of course, that is a totally plausible, for me, it's totally plausible that something along those lines could have happened. Did it happen exactly like in the Bible? No. There's no evidence for that at all from an archaeological perspective or from the writings of the Egyptians or anyone around the nation state of Egypt at that time. Nothing along those lines shows up in the historical narrative. So, is it plausible that a small group left? Sure. So there was an exodus of some sort. Does that make the Bible inaccurate? If you take it literally, it does. We don't teach that here. We don't teach literalism here. What we teach here is it's more important than what the text says is what does the text mean? The interpretation of the text. What does it mean in the 21st century? What does it mean to you in your walk with God, in your spiritual journey in this life? What does the text mean? Not what it says, what does it mean? What is the deeper meaning behind it? So I would argue if you're going to debate whether the Bible is historically accurate or not, you're battling literalism and you're battling fundamentalism, which is two things that I refuse to have here in this church. We're not going to take the Bible literally, and we do not espouse any kind of fundamentalism from that perspective. Is the Bible historically accurate? Yes. There's a thread that runs through it. There is a thread of history that runs through it. Yes. Is it a history book? No. It is an example among many of how the ancients recorded history, that very bombastic propaganda style. But is every single minute detail historically accurate? No. But I would argue it doesn't matter. Again, what does the text mean? Not what does it say? What does it mean? That's what we teach here. That's what I emphasize as more important than historical accuracy is what is the text trying to say? And what is it trying to say to me? What's it trying to say to you? That's what's important. That's what's important. Hey, thanks for coming by today, visiting us here at Coach Doc Ministries. As always, like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. If you have any questions that you want answered, ask them in the comments below, and we'll address them in a future video. Please join us at our Facebook and Instagram communities linked below. It was great to see you. Glad you were here. Look for you next week. Talk to you then.